you good. Let's play you good. Okay, everyone, we're going to start. We're live. Thanks for joining us live. We'll do our whole thing in just a second. But we've got to start off, as always, with the Moonshine Jesus theme song. And so Mark's going to put it up to the microphone here.
Do the best we can. Here we go.
And if you know it, you can sing it.
Yeah, please sing along.
Moonshine Jesus, nobody scared. Moonshine Jesus, baby, alright. Moonshine Jesus, a surprising delight. Moonshine Jesus, won't you shine a light?
All right. Well, hello and welcome. Well, they liked the song so much they wanted to do it twice. We welcome you to the live recording of the Moonshine Jesus Show. We are coming to you, for those who are watching online, from the Uptown Tavern in San Diego. Beautiful weather today. We are here with the University Christian Church, my co-host church. They have been fantastic hosts of us already and have made sure that we had this available for us so that we can do a live show. Caleb and I only get to do this twice a year, and it's our favorite show because we get to do it in person, and there's so much more energy. It's so much more fun. We also want to remind you that the show itself is brought to you by ProgressiveChristianity.org. I want to say it again, ProgressiveChristianity.org. It is a fantastic place for all kinds of resources for progressive Christianity. We really hope that those who listen to the show will take the time to go there, to look around, find some resources you like, and subscribe. We have some newsletters you can subscribe to there as well. Caleb, I'm excited today to talk to you about, we're going to be talking about Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. And as always, we have to warn you, if you haven't seen Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, are we going to spoil them, you think?
No. Yes.
Oh,
yes,
yeah,
we're going to spoil it. We're going to tell you everything about it.
We will spoil it. If you don't like spoilers, you should probably just pause now, come back and listen to this later, because we enjoy spoiling it, quite frankly.
Yes.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Before we do that, though, we do need to get on to our drinks. It is a themed drink usually. So we're at a tavern where we're working with their menu.
Yes.
And so since it wasn't a perfectly themed drink, although we also have some really nice old fashions here.
We do. Yep. Japanese whiskey.
We have started off with water to honor Aquaman.
Yes.
So here's to Aquaman and Aqua.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers, everybody.
All right. Well, we're going to get started with the show. For those of you who are maybe not as familiar with the show, we're going to start off with letting our geek flags fly. We're going to have a lot of fun kind of geeking out about Aquaman. We won't spend too much time doing that. We're going to move straight on from that into a theo-political discussion of some of the themes that pulled up in the show. So, with that said, we're going to drop our theme song one more time and come back on the other side and geek out just a little bit.
Moonshine Jesus, nobody scared.
Oh, you all know this now.
Moonshine Jesus, baby, alright. Moonshine Jesus, a surprising delight. Moonshine Jesus, won't you shine a light?
Well, welcome back to the Moonshine Jesus Show. You know, I was thinking the last time we were together, Randy, who wrote that song, was with us. We were in North Carolina.
Yep.
And Jim, you were there with us, and
Absolutely.
you all remember what was happening. The wind was blowing.
It's a whole different story in San Diego than it was in that open field in central North Carolina.
That's right. Yeah, people's tents were blowing over and all that. I'm glad we're inside today.
Yes.
So today we are talking about Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, the latest DC Universe movie, and
the final DCEU universe.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's right. It's not just another one. It is the final one in the DCEU. So if you're less familiar with that, the DCEU is the DC Comics extended universe, and it's all the movies that DC Comics produces: Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, all. And they've had a pretty hard time over the last decade, would you say?
There's been only a handful of movies that kind of stood out as good movie making. honoring the actual comics and the heroes and feeling like they were doing something, everything going somewhere, providing some connective tissue for you. I mean, you can't call something a universe and then provide so little connective tissue between any of the pieces that happen. We had some crossover and some effect, but it never felt like it was consequential in any way, I thought.
I think you're right. I think the DCEU was a flop. It really was kind of a flop. It was an attempt to mirror Marvel's success, right?
The MCU, yeah.
Yeah, and they were much more successful. So in this segment, we like to let our geek flags fly, as Mark said, and so we talk a little bit about the geekiness of the show that we're watching, and then we talk about theology and politics. And so, Mark, I agree. So this is the second Aquaman,
right?
And the final one, and you know, I'm curious, Mark. This film was a little divisive, which has been a pattern we've seen recently.
Okay.
So the critics didn't like it.
Right.
And the audience did. So it has a 35% fresh rating from critics and an 81% fresh rating by the audience. Why? What's up? What's going on with that? And who's right?
Man, I'll be honest. I've gotten to the point that I just don't pay attention to critics anymore because they're not interested in the art of critiquing an art form. They're interested in getting clicks and getting people who show up and look at the ads so they can make money. And so, it's in some ways, it's better. Like if a movie is really good, if everybody's saying, what a great movie, I enjoy it, if all the critics are saying that, then they're just going to divide it up. But the ones who take the far kind of hard line, oh, I know you think it was a great movie, but man, here's the reasons it really sucked. That's where everyone's going to go, well, that's unusual. Maybe I'll go check that out. And I think that we've seen it go to the extreme where they all have taken it, and so everyone's just critiquing it and not really paying attention to, a movie doesn't have to be Oscar-worthy to be a good movie.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you just want to spend 2 hours with a little escapism and enjoying having a fun, right? Like on a roller coaster ride, whatever it is. Just enjoy yourself. And I think the critics are kind of forgetting that having fun matters.
That's right. Sometimes you just want to see people swimming and fighting bad guys in the ocean, and that's enough.
Yeah, I mean, I wake up most morning going, gosh, I wish I could see some folks swimming and fighting bad guys and talking to octopus.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Pretty much.
Why not?
Yeah,
okay,
most mornings.
So I think this was a pretty good movie, but I don't think it was as good as the first one. And I think there are some reasons for that, in my opinion. But I want to bring up the elephant in the room, which is Amber Heard.
Yeah.
So she had a significantly reduced role in this film. Do you think that was the right choice or the wrong choice based on the things that were going on in her personal life, Johnny Depp, all the controversy? What do you think?
It's so hard. We've got kind of, I'm not going to say the same thing, but a mirror to a degree going on in the MCU with political balance they can, at least in terms of their relationship with the Republic, with the public, in terms of saying, okay, we're not going to completely shut her out, but we are going to reduce her role because we're still trying to understand everything that went on and trying to, we don't want to make so many of our listeners.
Does come in and save Aquaman like 3 times, but she doesn't have
quick.
Many lines even.
Yeah.
It's a very reduced part.
Well, I will say it sounds like what went on at the studio was that there was talk of almost not having her in the movie at all.
Right.
And so they did kind of try to bring her back in more than they were, but I'm completely with you. I mean, you got Amber Heard and Nicole Kidman.
Yes. Whose role was also reduced.
That's
right?
what I'm saying.
Yes. Yeah. You've got early, the performances were good. I think people were pretty committed. But I think in that role, I think you're right. I think that he was not invested in it. It was like he didn't want to do it. So I want to talk about comic book movies in general. Is anyone out there who all is a comic book fan?
We got comic book fans. Excellent.
Yeah, they're comic book fans.
Enough.
Okay, good. So if you are and you were a DC Comics fan, you know that Aquaman was kind of the laughing stock of DC Comics, right? This blonde-headed white dude who talks to fish. I mean, that's not really a character that you really are identifying with. And when Jason Momoa got the call to be Aquaman, he was like, who? You want me to be Aquaman? I'm not Aquaman. And so what he did was completely reinvent the role, right? His dad was a native Hawaiian, so he has a native ancestry, and he really kind of reinterpreted.
But the DCEU really needs to do the same. We've got to see these characters. We've seen these characters. We understand them. It's time for something new.
Yeah.
We've kind of played it out. We're seeing it a little bit in the energy of folks' willingness to come to the movies and watch these superhero shows. I think part of the reason why they're floundering some, well, one is because they've stopped trying to make good movies. They just try to be formulaic and run their way through them.
And make a bunch of money.
Right. But I think they need to reinvent why these heroes are out there, what they're doing. They need to make them more relevant to the world that we're in and the way that things happen in currently. And we're going to talk about one of the issues I have with all of superhero movies, and I'd love to see them reinvent that in our next segment. I'll point out this particular area that I think that we desperately, if we want the world to improve, we desperately need to reinvent one of the tropes that's in DCU, MCU, all of them, and we'll get to that on the next segment.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think it's important for these comic book characters not to continue to be in the 1940s-ish.
Pretty much,
you know. And I think it's the power of comic books is that they help us to understand the world. It's just like Greco-Roman myths or something like that.
Right.
They help us to understand the world in which we live. It's a way to make social commentary in a way that feels approachable and fun. And I think that needs to continue to adapt. And I appreciate Daddy Aquaman.
Aquadad.
Oh, that's bad.
Listen, in this movie, the baby is his kryptonite. Like, it is the thing that he's willing to, like, sacrifice everything for because he does, and you can hurt him through it because of how deeply he cares for this child. And we didn't have that edge of Aquaman in the way.
Do villains always hide out in volcanoes? What is that about?
All right.
For whatever reason.
Green or sometimes purple.
Sometimes purple.
Yeah.
So we saw both of those in Aquaman. Hey, this has been fun, geeking out. I want you all to be thinking, everyone who's here in the room, about what questions you might be able to stump us with for the Make Me Look Stupid segment. That's coming up after our next segment, where we're going to dive into theology and politics. So let's take a quick break, and let's come back, and Mark will lead us in that.
Moonshine Jesus, right in the sky. Moonshine Jesus, burning alright. Moonshine Jesus, a surprising delight. Moonshine Jesus, won't you shine a light?
All right, welcome back to the Moonshine Jesus Show, where we can't get enough of the theme song. We are pleased to have you back, those that are listening online, for our Theo Politico segment. Caleb, I mentioned that there was part of what goes on in superhero movies that I think needs to be reinvented, and we see an example of it in Aquaman. Ultimately, in Aquaman, they solved the...
Yes, one of the things that we find in the Gospels is that Rome wanted to achieve peace through conquest.
Absolutely.
And that, the Roman peace, I say this all the time at church, that the Roman peace, the great Pax Romana, was only Pax if you were Romana, right?
Exactly.
The way that they achieved peace was through conquest and violence.
Absolutely.
And so the message of Jesus was not that, was that peace didn't come through violence. It didn't come through conquering people. Instead, it came through justice. It was peace through justice, right? Through ensuring that everyone had enough. And so I appreciate that message in the Gospels. And so I think that in terms of Gaza, one of the things that we see is genocide.
Oh, massive.
Yeah, a massive genocide. And I think that that media outlets have dropped the ball. I think that political parties have dropped the ball.
Yeah.
And that we really need to be talking about I think it's north of 23,000 Palestinians that have died at the moment.
But with Israel promising at least 2 more months of this.
Yes.
And probably more.
I mean, the Biden administration is finally starting to say, hey, Israel, maybe you should be not quite so so cavalier in the way that you're attacking people.
Yeah.
But it's been very tepid, and it's been very slow, and it's been too late. And it's been horrific.
What do you think it is within the human outlook, the human who we are, that causes us to believe that violence is a solution that can lead to peace? I mean, if we look at superhero movies, that's the way almost completely that bad things and evil is fixed is through violence. You got, but then you have the great thinkers, particularly theological thinkers, who tell us things like hate begets hate. Dr. King, hate begets hate, violence begets violence. And in some ways, there's a giant gap in logic that happens when you say that you can use violence and aggression to create peace, because not just that those two don't seem to lead to each other, but that if you're successful in whatever it is you're trying to end with violence, you don't achieve peace even if you think you do, because what you achieve is the mindset of everyone else who says violence works. Why do we do that? What is it within us that causes us to override the logic circuits of our heads? Because that just makes sense. I mean, I'm looking around a room of people and everybody's nodding. Yep, of course. It's not like I was saying anything new.
Right.
It's not like I was saying anything new. We all can logically get that ABC, of course. Yet, humanity acts like that over and over again. What do you think it is that causes that? So much so that we keep putting it in our movies.
Yeah, right. So I agree. I think this is a problem with superhero movies, and I think that, like, a case in point is Batman, who I love. Batman's my favorite superhero, also a DC superhero, right? Who goes out and tries to solve the violence of Gotham with his fists. And yet, like, if he were able to go to some therapy and as Bruce Wayne, use his billions of dollars to create systemic change, do much more good. I think that we just have a problem as people in thinking that violence really will solve our problems. That if we are strong enough, if we are mighty enough, and I think it comes from a place of fear, Mark.
Sure.
You know, that, like, we're afraid, and so the way we solve fear is with violence. And so if we could, everyone, he continues to draw the circle wider. And I think that, like, Christianity ought to be doing that. We don't see Christianity doing that.
Not enough of it anyway.
No, but Christianity ought to be doing that, drawing the circle wider.
Absolutely. We could probably just go on that one question for the rest of this segment, but I don't.
We didn't solve that?
Nope.
We got close, right?
We were really. You were really close. You've helped me a immense amount, and I really appreciate it. Very appreciative of that. They will probably publish this, and you'll have a second dissertation, I'm sure. So I'm going to ask another question here that I'm curious about. One of the lines, and I wish I could remember the character that says it, and I'm just blanking on it, but they're going into the volcano. They realize that they're using this chemical, this ore that they have found. Orichalcum, which is actually a historically noted in mentions. Plato mentions it. A few other, when they talk about the lost city of Atlantis, they talk about this almost as good as gold thing that happens. So it's interesting to bring it into the comics. We might get to that depending on where this question goes in the next question. But they say, they're talking about Black Manta, who has this vendetta against Aquaman, who is both from the earth and the sea.
Right.
And Black Manta just wants to destroy it all.
Yes.
Wants to see it all end.
Yeah.
And they say they're heating the atmosphere. They're burning that ore, and that ore causes the problem. I mean, and that I know you loved the movie. I thought the movie was good. But I will say, besides the weird, odd acting of Patrick Wilson, the really heavy-handed use of orichalcum as oil and how burning it causes climate damage, I thought was really, really, really clumsy.
Yeah.
But that aside, they're burning it. He's doing it on purpose. He's not using it to fuel anything like that. He's just burning it to destroy the planet, let's say, bring about the end of the world.
Was that on the nose?
It was a little on the nose.
Yeah.
And he's doing it to bring about the end of the world.
Yeah.
I'm curious, in the world today, and it might even relate to things we have talked about already, do you see folks doing harmful, dumb things to bring about the end of the world?
Yes. I mean, without even thinking, yes. So one of the most problematic tenets of Christianity is that some Christians think that whenever, well, two things. That whenever in Genesis we read that God gave dominion over the earth, that means we can do whatever we want with it.
Right.
That is a ridiculous interpretation of that.
The Greek
of
word
that
is
passage.
rada.
Yes.
And rada has more to do with a benevolent
caring.
Right. And not
yes.
an ownership and do what you want with
responsibility,
it.
right?
Right.
Yeah, so that is just an uninformed, ridiculous interpretation of that. And the second thing is that so many Christians also don't understand the book of Revelation, which, I don't know, Mark, maybe has become one of my favorite books of the Bible because it's so subversive.
The moment you start reading it as a metaphor and subversive, a subversive letter to support marginalized groups who are under the foot of the empire. It's sort
great.
of,
it's
I'm
great,
with you.
right?
I'm with
you.
Completely.
So many Christians misinterpret Revelation and think that it's about like a future apocalypse, and it's not. It is not. For all the reasons Mark just said. And so I think that some Christians want to bring about the apocalypse, like an actual end time, through environmental collapse, that they think it's actually a theological goodness to actually destroy the earth, which is not only morally reprehensible, but is also killing the church.
Right.
You know, two most common reasons that people give for leaving church are perceived stances on LGBTQIA plus issues and climate change.
Absolutely.
Because the church has been so bad at saying climate change is a moral issue that we care about.
Yeah, and this I'm going to push this even a little bit further to talk about something another issue that we've already talked about. I do think this also points to Christian Zionism in the United States and its relationship to Israel and support of the war in Gaza. Because there is a belief from Christian Zionists that it is necessary for the Jewish folks to occupy all of Israel before the second coming and the new world can come about. And part of that needs to include massive bloodshed. So much, I think it comes from Ezekiel, so much bloodshed that there won't be enough men in Israel to bury the dead. And think about what's going on in Gaza. Think about how Christian Zionism is supporting that wholeheartedly. Hagee is the minister that's really behind, the leader behind a lot of this, and has an incredible influence on politicians and some of the politicians that are currently funding Israel.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're seeing this idea of how messed up this idea of salvation really, that we need to not worry about this. Like, what we need to do is usher in the end of life so that the good people get a new world to live in. And that's behind a lot of this support. I mean, am I stretching that?
No, you're not. And Hagee, he's a Blood Moon guy, right? Yeah. These terrible books. Don't ever buy those.
No.
the Blood Moon. But so this is all.
It might be the one time I support a book burning. No, probably not. Probably not. No, bad mark. Bad mark. No book burnings, no matter what. Everyone gets to say what they want. Even evil books. Even evil books get to exist.
You recycle those.
You recycle them.
Yes, you recycle them.
You recycle them into toilet paper. I understand.
I once into toilet paper. I love that. I once recycled all the Left Behind books in worship, and that was yeah.
Well done.
So I think this all has to do with like a lack of knowledge about socio-historical context.
Agreed.
That if we understood the context in which things were written, and if clergy did a better job in their congregations of saying, this isn't authentic to what was originally supposed to be.
Exactly.
To, in this case, Hebrew Bible texts or to the teachings of Jesus, that if we did a better job of that, I think we would avoid a lot of this. And
Absolutely.
so I think it's also morally reprehensible to try to usher in an end of the world, because I think that's a fundamental misunderstanding of Jesus' teachings about how it is that we're to create an alternative reality here on Earth in the here and now.
Absolutely. Yep. Listen, as you can tell, as much as we like geeking out, talking about theopolitical things really light the fire. We could go on for probably another 2 hours.
No, you don't like that, do you?
No, only a little bit.
Yeah,
only a little bit. We could probably go on, but in the interest of making sure that we respect everyone's time and keep the show on time, we're going to take a break. So you get all of, I think, about 30 seconds of a song to begin considering the questions that you might want to ask us around Aquaman, around the topics that we're talking about in a segment we call Make Me Look Stupid.
Moonshine Jesus, nobody is scared. Moonshine Jesus, baby, alright. Moonshine Jesus, a surprising delight. Moonshine Jesus, won't you shine
Welcome back to the Moonshine Jesus Show for our favorite segment, Make Me Look Stupid segment. Mark and I love to try and make each other look stupid, or just to ask each other questions.
That's
either
true.
Either
That's
one.
true. He's very good at making me look stupid.
I think it's actually
You're even
the
better
opposite.
you're also better at stealing all of my questions that I had planned on asking you during the show.
I didn't do that today,
You
did I?
didn't- we don't have any questions. They have them.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So
that's the beauty of this show.
couldn't.
Well,
I
I hope they have them because I didn't prepare any questions.
Well, I mean,
it's
I
gonna
thought
be a short
maybe.
show if we
Well, I
don't.
mean, you're always prepared so much that I thought you
all right.
probably just had
Well,
questions just in case no one in the audience.
I
did.
could ask some of the questions we didn't get to in the theopolitical segment. So
Okay, so you do. Did I steal
I'd be
any
all
of
right.
those questions?
I'd be all right. No, you didn't. No,
okay.
no.
Yeah, because I kind of crossed over accidentally.
Accidentally. I saw it was already planned out on your little pad over there. It wasn't accidentally.
Don't look at my pad. Don't look at that. You know, usually we don't have this problem because we're across the country
entire
from
country
each other.
apart. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so hey, in this section, what we ask is for you to ask us questions. So
And it doesn't have to be to make us look stupid. I mean,
It's
if you're
better
if
if
you're
you
asking
do.
it to Caleb, I appreciate it if it
yeah,
is to make
yeah,
him look
yeah,
stupid.
absolutely.
Very much. But just
Yeah, thank you.
curiosity, things
Thank
that
you.
we talked about that you might want to hear a little bit more about. Or if you were one of the groups, I know I talked to a few people who had seen the movie. It can also just be a geeked out, like, oh, this part of the movie, what'd you think of that? But we're curious. We got a little bit of time, and maybe 10 minutes or here.
Yeah.
We can take some questions. So does anyone have questions that they're curious about that would like to ask us?
And I'll stand up.
All right,
Now,
Jim, of course,
You'll
Jim
have
has a
Jim.
question.
You're gonna have to come over here.
Come on over. Jim
Okay.
is an honorary advisor to ProgressiveChristianity.org's board, so we're glad to have him here.
Okay, gentlemen.
Yes.
How would you re-rate Aquaman to make it non-violent?
That's a great question. Caleb's going to start.
Thank you so much, Mark. So, okay, so in this, actually, I think I can
I think
answer
I-
this
yeah.
easily.
Okay.
So, one of the things that we see in Aquaman's journey is his growth towards forgiveness and compassion. And so, in the first movie, what happens is Black Manta, the big bad of Aquaman, his dad dies, and Aquaman just leaves him there, and he says, "Ask the sea for forgiveness," as he dies. If he had extended compassion to Black Manta's father, perhaps Black Manta wouldn't have sought vengeance throughout the second movie. So I think that that's like something that we can
Yeah.
all learn from. That maybe,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. And if that hadn't happened, if
Yeah.
we just enter the movie where it is,
Yeah.
and that has already happened as it is,
Okay.
Black Manta has been hurt. In his mind, he believes that he has been wronged by Aquaman. And Aquaman, as you said, is in this growth, beginning to learn how to do
Okay.
forgiveness. And while I don't know that it would make great movie making, but I'm not a screenwriter. I'm sure someone could figure out how to make this moving and compassionate. But what really needed to happen was a moment of truth and reconciliation. We needed to see them come together, and Black Manta have the opportunity to express how and why he was hurt and the role that Aquaman played in it. And then Aquaman can respond to it, and then you can begin to have a dialogue, to have a common understanding, find common ground, and to move forward in a way where everyone gets to live and the world gets to be better.
Okay, so I like this.
I don't know, that's pretty inspirational. That might work in a movie.
I like this because it means that, okay, so in an ideal world, Aquaman behaves perfectly, but if he doesn't, what you're saying is that there's still an opportunity for forgiveness and for reconciliation, and that we have a responsibility to pursue that.
There is, and this is so biblical and such a core cornerstone of Christianity, that for both Manta and Aquaman, there is the opportunity to have forgiveness.
Yeah,
and to grow in a new way, to be restored, so to speak.
I really like that. Okay, what other questions do we have? Does anyone else have questions? Yeah,
yes.
Lucia,
come on up. Woohoo! By the way, everybody who is watching us live right now, you have Lucia to thank and her team. She has a team that's helping make this all happen. So thank you. Yes,
thank you all. All right, so the question I have for both of you, I want to hear your perspective. What's your all's perspective on the Necromass kingdom, like the kingdom that was erased?
The extra kingdom.
The extra kingdom, but then what they did. How do you tie that to theology? I'm just very curious.
I'm gonna let you go first.
No.
Yeah.
I have the microphone, so I'm going to let.
No, I had a microphone first.
And I went first last time, so Mark gets to go first this time. Because that's a great question, and I want to hear what he said.
Repeat the end of that question. The seventh kingdom that was destroyed and put and locked into ice because of the evil. Yes. The question is,
what's your perspective on that?
How does that tie into theology? Well, I mean, part of it is that there are always kingdoms who are so focused on power and finding that power that they're willing to sacrifice anything. And one of the things that king represents is the willing to sacrifice self in order to find and achieve power. He was willing to become something completely different than who he really was in response to the world around him. And in some ways, it's very easy to vilify that, but also I think it's important as Christians to back up and recognize there was something about the world and the environment and how he chose to respond to it that made him feel like that was the response he only had. And it's sort of our responsibility to begin to figure out how to make sure that we don't pressure people into places where they feel like that the only way that they can have meaning and success in their life is to be something other than who they were born to be. We don't do a good job with that. And in this case, we have this king who was born one way, and in order to achieve everything that he felt like the world was pushing him towards, he had to become something completely different than he ever was.
I like that. Yes, that sounds good. Yeah.
It's Caleb saying, that sounds good, but I'm not sure it's right.
No. I think it sounds good. I think that, power corrupts. And as
absolute
I say...
power corrupts absolutely.
That's
yes.
right.
Absolutely.
That's right. Yes. And so I think that one of the things that we as Christians try to do is to ensure that we're keeping power in check, right? So that we're not...
100%, yes.
Yes.
It's a key role.
Yeah, and so I think that's one of the messages of Jesus, is that's one of the things that we're doing. I like Mark's answer. I'll stick with that.
Great question, though.
Okay.
Great question. One more.
Who
we
else?
got time for one more.
Me? You? Maggie?
One more.
Lyle.
All right.
Lyle, retired disciples minister.
I think the whole discussion about Israel and Hamas begins with the book, The Lemon Tree.
I'm not familiar.
Have you read it? The book?
I'm
the
not
Lemon
familiar.
Tree?
Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, it's the tree that's growing there as a lemon tree producing lemons. And then in 1948, they came in and took pieces of the and turned it over to Israel. And so it became a tree in the yard of an Israeli person. Yeah.
Wow, I need to find that. It sounds brilliant, and such a beautiful way of describing the reality of what has happened there, and what's caused this, led to this divide, and I think we all, including everyone watching online, it's called the lemon tree.
Yeah.
Sounds like we all need to make sure that we read that. The best thing that we can do, and one of the things I think that points to, we've had a pretty good discussion about Gaza here, is recognize the importance of education in this area. It's very easy to listen to all the talking heads and just buy into the sides that feel the best, that make us feel like, oh yeah, that must be it, that must be it. I can't, it's important in all spaces. This is such a complicated issue that we need to find books like The Lemon Tree. We need to research the history of the occupation of Palestine and all of the things that have gone on there, so we can really have an informed outlook on this. Well, I mean, this has been fun.
It has been.
Yeah. There are other incredible podcasts that happen. There's great speakers. There's interactive resources. There's so much that goes on. So we'd encourage you to come and join us.
Wild Goose is incredible.
Absolutely.
And I love coming to that, and I love being with you, Mark.
Oh, yeah, it's
been
the best.
So fun doing this in person. And I'm thinking that, next week, unfortunately, we're not going to be here at Uptown
I know.
Tavern
We're still going to do a show, but...
Yes, that's right. But we're going to be online. So what do you think we should do?
The thing that I have been curious about so far, so we are both Star Trek, Star Wars types of fans.
We are. And, hey, did you notice that Star Wars is on the TV?
I did.
Is there anything better?
If you're watching me kind of glance every now and then, it's usually because I'm like, hand, go ahead. Yeah. So I think what we should do, Zack Snyder wanted to make a Star Wars film.
Yeah. I'm going to miss you in person. But
I agree.
It's great here. And great to be with all of you. Thanks for coming.
Thanks to all of you for being here. We can't tell you how much we appreciate it.
Moonshine Jesus, right in the sky. Moonshine Jesus, bourbon rye. Moonshine Jesus, a surprising delight. Moonshine Jesus, won't you shine?
Thank you all so much. We appreciate you being here.
Yes, thank you.
Cheers to you all.
Lucia and Bruce. Yeah.
Big applause to Lucia and Bruce and all of those who made this happen.
Alex.